For the past year now, Bleach has kinda taken over my life. Not in the literal sense, but it has been on my mind a lot. I just have so many thoughts and feelings about this series that I decided to make a little video about it. And so today, I'm gonna rank Bleach's manga arcs, not from worst to best, but from my least favorite to favorite. This was not an easy task, and it is likely that my ranking could make some people mad. Please do keep in mind, though, that my ranking of these arcs are more about my personal taste than anything else. Like, I am not gonna try to convince you that one arc is better than the other, because that's not my point here. This is just for fun, so hopefully you all will enjoy watching this video. And so, with that out of the way, let's get into it. Alright, so at number 5, at the bottom of my list, is the Soul Society arc. Now, like I said, this list is about my personal feelings, so the placement of this arc has nothing to do with its quality, because the Soul Society arc is awesome. It has some of the strongest writing in Bleach, iconic fights, and a great twist reveal. So, yeah, I really do enjoy this one. It's just that I've never really been that enamored with it. Like, yes, I recognize how good this arc is, but to be honest, the other 4 arcs have elements that appeal to me more, and that's the main reason why Soul Society is here at number 5. Alright, so next up at number 4 is the Arrancar arc. Now, I take issue with a lot of things from this arc, but at the same time, there's a lot more that I like about it than not. And I'd say that the aspect that keeps me the most invested is the characters. While some do get treated kind of badly, a lot of them are well done. For example, I really like the focus on Ichigo's fears, flaws, and weaknesses throughout, because it makes him feel more realistic and relatable. In addition to that, Orihime ended up becoming one of my favorite characters, and Kubo even managed to get me to care about characters that I didn't give a damn about before, such as Hisagi or Komomura. And I also appreciate that he actually made some of the Espadas somewhat interesting, giving them full-on backstories or even their own character arcs. Now, outside of the characters, the fights during this arc are pretty good for the most part. In fact, I'd argue that the Arrancar arc has more interesting fights than Soul Society, and that's no hate to the Soul Society fights, of course, because they're great. But, I don't know. I guess I tend to connect with these fights more. Now, admittedly, some are kind of bad, or at least not very interesting, but when it comes to the important ones, those are the real highlights, and you can tell that Kubo put a lot of thought into them. I mean, you got all of Ichigo's fights. There's the fight with Komomura, Hisagi, and Tosen. And even smaller or arguably lesser fights like Ikaku versus Edorad or Rukia versus Aranyedo are really good. Now yes, this arc does suffer from being too long, pacing issues, and some strange story decisions, but overall the Arrancar arc is very good, and actually better than I originally gave it credit for. At number 3 is the one that started it all, the Substitute Shinigami arc. So this arc gets overlooked a lot, and it's kind of easy to see why. It's not particularly exciting, it's also the very first arc. So naturally it doesn't stand out too much. However, it is a very good start, and it's a lot of fun as well. It's also a side of Bleach that I wish we had gotten to see more of. I mean, as much as I love the Roncar arc or the Thousand Year Blood War arc, I always find myself missing the simplicity of this one. So the Substitute arc is basically a Monster of the Week slice of life sort of deal, and that formula is pretty effective. The Hollows as early bad guys work very well, with some of them being downright scary. The standout here is, of course, the Grand Fisher, but Shrieker and Numb Chandelier were also pretty messed up. Like, honestly, I wish that the later parts of Bleach could have included more Hollows like these guys, but oh well, what can you do, right? Anyways, the other thing that I like about how this formula is used is how it's used to introduce and then give some development to future main characters, Orihime, Chad, and Uryu. And of course, it also gives Ichigo and Rukia some of their early development, both individually and as friends. I think it's nice how much time we get to spend in Karakura Town before the story starts ramping up to the Soul Society arc. It would have been very easy to cram all of this stuff into a few chapters and then jump straight to the big stuff. But no, this is a whole arc where the reader gets to follow Ichigo, learn, and grow as a substitute Soul Reaper, allowing us to become invested in these characters and world first, which is awesome. Now, I enjoy a lot of things about this first arc, but my favorite part overall is the Memories in the Rain storyline. I love this storyline so much, and it hits right in the feels every time. The fight with Grand Fisher is given the weight it deserves, and the scene at the end where Isshin talks to Ichigo is very emotional, and it makes me cry a little bit every time. Like, if I'm being honest here, I think that this is the point where Bleach officially clicked with me. While I had enjoyed it up to that point, this is where Bleach kind of showed me that it had more to offer than I had initially thought. My second favorite Bleach arc is the Lost Agent arc. So this is one of two arcs that I was somewhat aware of prior to starting Bleach, and I mainly knew about this one due to how unpopular it was. That did not deter me from getting excited though, especially once I finally finished the Roncar arc. Because that storyline had gone on for so long that by the end of it, I was over the entire thing. Like, honestly, by the end of the Roncar arc, all I really wanted was for Bleach to go back to the basics. You know, a story arc with smaller stakes and more character focus. And, well, that's what this arc is. It's exactly what I wanted, and in addition to that, it's also just very good. I love so many things about this arc. The aforementioned small stakes and character focus, as well as the mystery noir elements present. Like, honestly, Lost Agent feels a bit out of place among the rest of Bleach, which could be why some were turned off by it. But that's what I love about it. So the early stuff with Ichigo's training and the initial confrontation with Tsukishima is entertaining, and I enjoy it a lot, but the latter half of the arc is where it stands out. And I could go on and on about it, but I'm trying to avoid going on tangents, so I won't. To put it simply, I've read and watched a lot of different things, but this is probably the only time where I've seen a villain use the hero's friends and family to hurt him the way Tsukishima and Ginjo do here. It's just so painful to read this entire series of events. And I feel so bad for poor Ichigo throughout. Like, if you ask me, in terms of villains, I think these two are way worse than Aizen or Yuha. I mean, yes, those two did sort of try to destroy the world, but these two made things personal and also broke Ichigo in a way that those other two didn't, which makes them stand out in my mind just a bit more. Now, if I had any criticisms of this arc, I'd say that my main one is that I kind of wish Ginjo's backstory had been expanded on a bit more. I mean, if I had to guess why it wasn't, it was probably for time. But even so, it would have been interesting to see more of what led to his downfall. It also could have added extra emotion to the ending. But, it's actually fine as it is. I just kind of wish there was a little more to it. And I think that's all that I have to say for now, at least. But real quick, I just want to say that the art during Lost Agent is some of Kubo's best. Some of my favorite panels in the entirety of Bleach are from this arc. So, yeah, it sucks that Lost Agent gets such a bad rep because it actually is very good. And now we have reached number 1, my favorite Bleach arc, which is none other than the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. So this is the other arc that I was somewhat aware of beforehand, but it wasn't due to its reputation. No, it was actually because of the anime. In fact, all of the attention surrounding the 1,000-Year Blood War anime last year is what piqued my interest in Bleach in the first place. And, well, here we are today. So this one is arguably the most flawed arc in the entire series, but obviously that doesn't bother me too much because there really is a lot of stuff here that's really good. So first, I want to briefly talk about the first invasion. Now, I've seen so many talk about how good this part is, and yes, it is very good. I was really shocked the first time I saw it because, Bleach had quote-unquote graphic moments before, but it wasn't on this level. Like, this first invasion is pretty brutal at points. Like, Kubo basically decided that he didn't care anymore and went all out. It's also dramatic and raises the stakes. So, yes, the first invasion is great. But my favorite stuff is what comes afterwards with stuff like Kenpachi vs. Unohana or Everything But the Rain. With my favorite part overall being the Blade is Me, because that gave Ichigo his final bit of character development, and it also causes an emotional response every time I read or watch it. Now, as for the second invasion, I remember during my first read that this is the point where I started to see some cracks. But, even so, I have a lot of fun with this part of the story. Normally, I'm not a fan of near back-to-back fight sequences in stories, but I don't mind it here because almost all of them are really good. I mean, you got Kamamura versus Bambietta, there's Renji versus Maz, Rukia versus Asnot, and even Ichigo versus the Bambis is a lot of fun, as short as that is. I mean, I'll say this. I actually enjoy this stuff more than the Fate Katakota town fights in the Iranka arc. So, yeah. Now, admittedly, things do start to get really messy around the Varvelt section, but I'm still having a really good time with that part of the story, too. Like, honestly, I'm a big fan of this arc up until the end. Like, no matter how many times I've read the end now, I still just find it to be a bit messy. I mean, I don't hate it or anything, I'm fine with it as it is. But I would like to see it get expanded on in the anime. And in fact, from what I understand, Kubo himself had some problems with how the ending turned out, so I'm curious to see what happens there. So, Yeah, as many issues as this arc has, I can't help but love it, and it's my favorite Bleach arc of them all. And so that's it. That was my ranking of Bleach's manga arcs from my least favorite to favorite. So what did you think of my ranking? More than likely yours is quite different from mine, so please comment below and tell me yours. I'd love to see it. And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Bye.